Hey everyone, I'm back for the second interview of the day, but I am also in the presence of another marketer, no-coder, founder. I don't know how many other titles I should give him, but I'm here with Lachlan Kirkwood, and he's joining very early from Australia and pixelized, but we love you anyway. Lachlan, how are you doing?
Hey, good, thanks. Thanks for having me, and we'll definitely make it work across this time zone right now.
Absolutely, yeah. You look great, pixelized and not pixelized, so don't worry.
Oh, if it wasn't pixelized, you would be saying that, don't you worry.
No, because you're coming in and out of pixelization. That's why I say that.
Very nice.
So yeah, we'll have a little chat today. Let's start off by just kind of like, you're the founder of CEO of Clickthrough. Why don't you tell us what Clickthrough is?
Yeah, absolutely. So in its current state, it's taken a whirlwind of a journey throughout, the past year. It feels like an absolute roller coaster, but in its current state, I'd almost count Clickthrough as a culture-driven directory for marketing teams. So it's all about connecting digital marketers with teams that share their values. So an issue I've had with my background in digital marketing, and a reason why I don't actually have a full-time job, is that I could never find a team that I actually really cared about in a way, or really like shared the values of in my day-to-day role. And it was just this common theme throughout my career, and I really wanted to kind of build something that would allow digital marketers to find teams that, as I said, share their values and find a place where they'd be happy to go to work every single day. And so I started building a bit of a kind of a platform that would enable marketing teams to answer a list of questions, almost, of what kind of values they believe in and how they turn into daily practices. There's a really popular tool out there called Key Values. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's very much
I
the same
haven't.
version for engineers. And so I kind of saw that model and really liked it. So it's not a job board, but in a way, like, it kind of talks about the roles within these companies, and they talk about like their values on a personal level. And then you can actually filter through, as a digital marketer, go on and filter through which values mean the most to you. So it could be that you want to work somewhere that allows you to work from home, or someone that's supportive of parents. And then it'll throw up a list of those companies that believe those values, and then you can check out their full profile. So yeah, at the moment, currently built on WordPress, which, we just kind of spoken about earlier before this call, purely just because at the moment, it is a static site. There's nothing really dynamic on it, so it's nothing like too special. It's more so the product is the content itself. And being a digital marketer, I'd worked with WordPress in the past, particularly with the Elementor kind of framework builder, and just being able to have the SEO and kind of speed benefits that I can, a lot of the plugins as well that can kind of optimize a lot of the content that I have. And I really just wanted to get something up quickly that I could start indexing in Search Console and things like that. So that was kind of the reason why I chose to go with WordPress with that one, actually.
That's awesome. Yeah. But here's the funny thing. So Lachlan is actually also a no-code expert and can build super complex platforms, basically. So tell us about some of the platforms that you've built previously as well, on other platforms like Bubble, and et cetera.
Yeah, absolutely. So the original version of Clickthrough, and I should say that I was definitely guilty of making that first time kind of found mistake in terms of just building anything. Especially, so my background, I should say, is actually, I come from a background working in tech startups and digital agencies, and I've always worked alongside engineers. And in our free time, we'd always kind of geek out about products we were building and things like that. And I found that over the years, I'd always had these great product ideas. Sorry, I thought they were great product ideas. And then I would always have to try and source an engineer or someone in my network who would build it. And it was really tough to obviously find someone who's passionate about the same things as you, especially when, like, my passion, my area is digital marketing. There's not a whole lot of engineers that are kind of fascinated in that. And then so I was always trying to hack together little kind of products using things like Typeform, Zapier, like really the standard kind of stuff that you hear a lot of digital marketers using. And then, yeah, one day I stumbled across Bubble and like literally just fell in love and went crazy building features. And it was a good thing and a bad thing. Good thing because I learned like the capabilities of no code, but from a business perspective, like I was just putting pointless features out there, building things. And again, like it taught me a lot. But the first iteration of my Click-Through platform was, yeah, this beautiful dynamic community where people could contribute content. You'd have like a leaderboard based on how many posts someone had, how many like posts that commented on and things like that. So it was essentially like a portfolio for digital marketers, or the dribble for digital marketers was the best way to put it. And yeah, like again, like I just focused so much on building this product. I kind of lost sense of my digital marketing origins throughout that period. It was a dark time. And yeah, no, it was good. I just, long story short, I couldn't scale it to kind of where I wanted in the end, just because, yeah, I'd put so much time into just building features and not talking to customers. So that was the mistake I made, and I definitely learned from that and pivoted with what I've currently got now.
Yeah, I like that story though, because there's definitely, like, people don't understand when people talk about sort of simplifying products and bringing products to market that are very simple with not too many features, but enough to be able to get that market or get those customers interested, is really also about the scalability issue. Is that you know, when you have 10,000 features, it's very unlikely you'll be able to reach a large number of consumers and not have a bunch of those things breaking, basically. Because
100%.
yeah, so that's the other reason why people are sort of building simplified products. But so yeah, it's crazy. You've built a lot of different platforms. Like, you even built like an Airbnb. Is that not like something similar to Airbnb?
Yes, that was something on the side as well. So for the past, I think about 5 months, I've been contracting for Bubble as a content marketer. And a series that they've kind of started introducing to the no-code community or for their audience is the Bubble How-To series. So essentially what they do is they give me a list of products that people want to build with no code, and then I'll go out and I guess rebuild like an MVP version of that. So it's not as complex, but it's a bit of like a bare bones model as to how to get started using Bubble to actually build these kind of platforms that people are really interested in. And once I built it, I'll then just kind of document like the step-by-step process of what I did and try and explain it into kind of plain terms that anyone who, you know, is potentially looking into building something in the no-code space will do. And I think it's a really powerful thing, because when I got into the no-code space just over a year ago, it really came down to, like, when I had to choose my tools, it was really something between Webflow or Bubble. And I was definitely on the Webflow fence. And we had this conversation just in terms of the content that they had available out there. There was plenty of it, but there was, I don't know if you've watched Gabby Roman's videos about Bubble.
Yeah.
So yeah, she was the reason that got me over the line with using Bubble. Is she had plenty of great tutorials out there of how to like build exact features that I knew I wanted. And so that like immediately just got me onto Bubble. So I definitely think that content and education is going to play a huge role in terms of the acquisition strategy for either company. And it could even be things like for Airtable or any other no-code products out there. But yeah, it's so important, I guess, to educate that next generation and show them the capabilities before they even register or sign up for one of these platforms.
Yeah, and I think that that's one of the mistakes I think that people make, right? Is to think like, hey, let's get people to adopt our technology. I think that going too hard on the our technology bit is kind of like missing the point of this larger thing, is that the fact that, you know, there are hundreds of millions of people out there who have no idea that these possibilities are out there. And then when we talk about stacks, it's like everyone has a different project and different capabilities walking in. So kind of saying that like one platform is better than another is absolutely true for certain things. But then if you don't bring that back to the goals of the individual, then you're still facing a deep problem. And frankly, you know, like some platforms are easier to learn than others. And I think that's where it's like people get a bit caught up, right? And a lot of these tools will probably be like fighting their separate war. And one thing that I'm trying to do as well is to reach out to those people and say like, hey, maybe we could fight a bigger war where we bring more people into the industry and then let them trickle towards the tools that are best fit for them. So I love that what you're saying right now, and I do think that content strategy education is the biggest thing. Even just awareness right now. Awareness is the biggest thing, I'd say.
Yeah,
super exciting.
I always love trying to have to explain like what no-code tools really are to just kind of outside people, like my partner, for instance, if she's asking what I'm building, and you know, like just having to explain that I'm writing code, but I'm not in a way. Yeah, it's always really interesting, and people are very fascinated by it these days. So yeah, it's around that education piece, I think, and it just speaks to the community itself. Like the community, once you adopt a no-code tool, I think it should be your job to also help promote the industry in a way too, whether it be through sharing a project or just actively kind of, you know, having those conversations with people about the capabilities of the tools.
Yeah. No, and it's exciting, right? I think that this is just like a wave that's happening. I think we're, now we're just reaching that maturity point. But these tools have been around in different forms and different tools for a long time. And the fact, like WordPress, for example, that you mentioned earlier, like they own 30% of the internet, and they essentially were like one of the first really powerful low code tools. So you did need to learn how to code, but it was a minimal amount. And so I think that like, probably after that, it was kind of like things like Squarespace and Wix and Shopify, stuff like that. But again, that even had its limitations in terms of like landing pages, websites, or stores. Those are the three things you really build with that. And now we're getting to this whole next level, and that's what's exciting, right? I think that we all share in that belief that like this is an exciting time in terms of how far other platforms like Webflow, Bubble, Adalo, Zapier, Airtable, MemberStack, like all these different platforms are just really doing a great job. I just got off a call with Chris from JetBoost, who basically is facilitating features within Webflow. So he adds additional sort of plugins that you can use, and it's like fully no code. It's just great. But I think that you just have, and I'll tell you, I'm receiving decks, pitch decks from people who are like, hey, now you can like, leverage my fintech plugin in your no-code tool.
It's really cool.
Another one with augmented reality. Like, hey, now you can create your augmented reality sort of elements designed, and then you can bring them into your app now. So I think that there's so many moving pieces, but it's just super exciting to see all these different makers like being excited and building cool stuff around it. And now it's time for, I think, to bring it to the mainstream, and to make this thing sort of the future of how most people build technology. And it's not to say that we're going to move away, like that there will not be any more sort of developers. Absolutely not. All these things are built with code. But it's to say that for a lot of people who are not coders or not tech savvy or don't have 5, 6 years to become good coders, there are other tools, visual programming, no code, call it what you'd like, which are more adapted to their needs.
Absolutely. And even just as a digital marketer, it kind of speaks to the capabilities of no code, in that whenever I was building a product or trying to build a product back in the day, the furthest I could ever get was building a landing page just to take signups for a real product. And then if I had enough of that, I could validate kind of trying to go to a developer or even pay someone for their time to, put together a little MVP. Whereas no code just enables me to take it to that next step and actually build like the very minimal viable product myself now. And then that can really help start to validate ideas then. And then I guess I've always gone into the, like any project that I built in the past, even with the original click-through, that with the notion that I would never stick with no code. It would almost be like a testing bed for it. But I mean, since I started that, I mean, a lot of these no code tools are getting better at scaling and things like that now too. Yeah. So it is an option to, eventually lock yourself in. But there's always the option to, export your code and things like that with Webflow. So it is really powerful in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And so like, a lot of developers are starting to catch on and to realize like, hey, maybe I should use my intelligence and analytical skills for the more complicated parts of projects, and build the majority way quicker and way cheaper with these no-code tools. And I think that's where it's empowering everyone. There's definitely like some hate from the development community, but I think that's going to go away. I think it's also because people just kind of checked out no-code at its earlier days and saw that it was limited.
Absolutely.
So let's get into this. You are 25 years old, and you are a whiz kid. You've built a bunch of platforms. You learned marketing from scratch. You basically are a traffic wizard. You're a content marketer. Like you do so many different things, and you're an entrepreneur. Tell us about that entrepreneurship journey, because it sounds like you've developed a skill, which is to continually invest in your own learning. Tell us some sort of tips for some of the people out there who are maybe trying to get started. Like, how should they start? Should they just be learning marketing first? Is it product? Like, I don't know. Do you have any advice?
It's a really good question. And I'm very biased with this, obviously, because I am a digital marketer. But I've always said that the most important thing you could do before you build a product, or your MVP for a product, shouldn't actually be a product. It should be an audience. because there's so many different ways that you can monetize an audience, whereas a product with no users doesn't really have much value. So I'm all for particularly communities, and I mean the no code community is a great example, but like it's so important to build a thriving community and learn how you can like service the needs of those particular users within that. And you could be completely wrong about like your hypothesis about what problems they have, and it's just really good to have kind of a test bed of users that you can talk to just in a candid way and get honest feedback from them. And a lot of building a community comes around two things, and it's educating people and adding value to them. And I mean, both of those can be the same thing. But from a digital marketing standpoint, I think the most important thing you can learn to do first is like share value on the internet, essentially, is the easiest way I would put it. So yeah, using tools either with like Facebook groups, Mighty Networks, or anything to build communities out there. And then once you've got that, you can start to kind of test these no-code tools and build an actual product for it. But I guess the thing I love about the industry and why I'm so passionate about it is that I just love learning, and particularly in the no-code space, there's so many opportunities to learn every single day. And we talked about this earlier on, but like it was almost like that instant gratification. Like you get a bit of an instant hit of learning, and then that kind of fuels your motivation to want to learn more. And you know, we live in a time where like we are so privileged that you can build a business online without leaving your room. Like it's possible. And you can learn so much. There's so many free resources out there, and companies like Webflow, for instance, are putting complete video series online to help educate you as much as you can. So I think you'd be a fool almost these days to not use that as an opportunity to learn content for free. It's insane. Like traditionally, you'd have to go to university or college to get a degree and learn anything, and by that point, it wouldn't really be practical knowledge. Whereas these days, like there's a million different courses, particularly even through like COVID-19, like everyone was kind of putting courses out there for free to help support the community. And yeah, I just kind of gobbled up as many as I could throughout that time because it was just an awesome opportunity to learn. So I just love learning, to be honest.
Yeah. So that is the trick. I think that going back to my question, like, how did you do it? Or maybe like, what's some feedback is like, just be a continual learner. Just start figuring out ways that can, and if you need to get a pat on the back every time that you do something good, great. Understand that and leverage that. Like find things that you're able to learn and you're able to feel comfortable with that'll make you feel good. And then you lean into that learning and it will help you progress. And slowly as you get used to that, as you change your daily habits, it basically, you become a growth engine yourself,
Absolutely. And it's almost like, I guess my mentality is kind of fight or flight, in that if you don't learn in the digital industries, you pretty much will fail. Like it moves so quickly that you have to learn. And like I personally love that about it, because it keeps you on your feet and keeps you kind of learning new concepts and strategies and things like that. But yeah, if you don't keep up, you will fall behind very quickly.
Nice. So for the marketers out there, or for people who are tell us some of the some interesting sort of hacks that people might be able to use, whether those are sort of a couple different tools you use and you found success with, techniques that you've been using lately that have been working, or can you share some of your secret sauce with our audience here?
Yeah, to be honest, like from my perspective, there's no real secret sauce to it. Again, it just comes down to adding good value out there. So I myself, so my background is actually in paid acquisition. So using things like Facebook ads, Google ads. I mean, I can think of like a million different little hacks around like building certain custom audiences and things like that. But the biggest kind of success I've seen to date, and I mean, it's not massive in terms of like, what other kind of digital marketers or companies are doing for their digital marketing strategies, but it's just around content marketing. And that's exactly what I've also been doing with Bubble, is just putting really valuable content out there. And I know that doesn't sound like a great secret hack or anything, but the easiest way to do something is the hard way of just writing a really in-depth blog post that shares value with someone, making sure you mark it up properly with the right schema so you can be indexed in Google properly, making sure you submit that in Search Console so it can be crawled straight away. Like there's not a whole lot of secret sauce behind that, unfortunately. It's not as sexy as I'm sure you'd like.
You just said probably 5 things that people have no idea what you're talking about. And you're like, that's not, this is not any. It's so funny because that often happens with people who are like so ingrained into it. They're like, well, everyone knows this, and it's like, no, that like sometimes you just forget that, like, you have founders who come from like a psychology background. You have
Very
founders
true.
who
Yeah.
come from. So
And
absolutely, like I love that about like content, adding value, and then also like understanding SEO, understanding indexing, which is basically focused around keywords and how you can get people organically towards content by the choice of keywords, basically, right?
absolutely. And just on what you mentioned about founders coming from different backgrounds, I think that, and again, very biased here because I am a digital marketer, I think that every founder should have some understanding of digital marketing, just purely because you are going to have to use those skills, whether you're writing copy for a landing page, for a blog post, or if you just want to put up Facebook ads to help validate an idea or something. And like, it's not hard to do, certainly not, like, especially with all the resources out there. You just need to know what you need to do. And there's so many free courses like Google's Digital Garage or Facebook Blueprint out there that, again, they're all free. They take 40 minutes per module and you can learn like tangible skills.
Love it. I really, really like it. So yeah, tell us now about a little bit more about sort of the places that people might be able to find you, like online, or in that case, like I don't know if you're willing to give your email address.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess I've kind of got content distributed everywhere at the moment. So my personal blog is lachlanKirkwood.com. That's where I kind of write a bit more kind of behind the scenes view of what I've been building, my journey as a digital marketer. So I started that about 4 years ago when I entered the industry, and that was actually really a useful tool to help build almost like a bit of a personal brand in the industry. And it enabled me to kind of take a step back and move into a freelance position as a digital marketer or a consultant, just because, I'd been sharing value for 4 years, that people kind of knew what I was doing for my work. They trusted what I was doing. And I was always open to, sharing like case studies or examples of what I was building, which sounds a bit familiar because that was kind of what I was trying to build with Click-Through. The original version was like a version of that at scale for everyone else. Apart from that, I'm always very active on Twitter. At Lachlan Kirkwood is where I'm at. And also Click-Through is my product, as I mentioned. The domain is clickthrough.marketing. And that's where I put a lot of great content out there for digital marketers who are either looking for jobs in the industry or really want to kind of find a place where they can fit in culturally, as I said.
Nice. Very cool. And where do you see all of this going? Like, we talked about marketing, we talked about no code, we've talked about entrepreneurship. Like, what are some of the things that you think this is all going towards? And maybe what are some of the things you're excited about?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think that especially after the current state of everything that's happened this year, people are going to try and build more independent businesses, I think. And I mean, I'm a big fan of Indie Hackers, the community platform. I think that, as I said, there's never been a better opportunity just to build a lifestyle business. And that's all I ever want to build personally. Like, I don't want to make millions of dollars. I just want to be able to pay myself a decent wage and be able to work from home and wake up when I want, build something I'm really passionate about, and add value to my little small niche in this world. And I think that there's more and more people like that, that either have some sort of skills in like the digital landscape and they know that they've got these tools and capabilities to build something like that as well. So I definitely see a lot more lifestyle businesses coming out, and a lot of people kind of just knowing that like their full-time jobs aren't as secure as they thought, and that they do want to, after spending time at home with their family and their kids and things like that throughout this year, like that's something that they actually really want to pursue. So I think that that's going to be a lot more common. Then there's the other side of things where, as I said, I come from a background in tech startups, and there's a lot of like conferences for specific like languages. There's lots of different frameworks. There's tools like GitHub and Stack Overflow for communities. And I think that that will be replicated over to the no-code space. So I think that no-code tools, the different tools are almost like languages. So, Bubble might be JavaScript, Webflow might be React. And at the moment, there's only one no-code conference, but I think that there'll be individual ones for every tool, and that'll almost be like their version of like WWDC, where they'll ship new features each year once it gets big enough. That's very long-term thinking, I guess. And then again, I also think there should be a platform that's like Stack Overflow for no-code. So like an aggregated view of like the whole no-code community, where people can kind of like post questions and things like that about every single tool there is. Because again, one of the like really valuable things I found with Bubble was their forum. I don't know if you've used that or not,
Yeah.
but you can put a question on there and someone will answer it in a couple of hours, and like it will make a difference in terms of what you're building. And like everyone was so willing to help, which I found so refreshing when I used it. So I think like a version of that for every single like no code tool under one roof would be very powerful.
It's interesting you say that, because I think like on the like event side of things, you said like no code conf, but that's like, that's run by Webflow. So it is kind of run by one tool. So you're saying that it'll be siloed by different tool. You see?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think one of the things we'll be interested in doing at some point will be to bring all those tools together and to say like, hey, let's focus on the end user. Let's focus on different profiles of people trying to accomplish different things. And then your no code tool will come in when that seems to be the best match for their sort of their profile. But hey, I mean, there's so much that's going to happen, and I agree. Stack Overflow is so amazing. Hey, maybe we'll start the next Stack Overflow.
Sure, built on no code, of course.
Oh, of course, everything we build is on no code. Yeah, we're not gonna we're not gonna start saying something and doing something different. I mean, plus, also once you've been stung by the no code bug, there's very few things that you want to do custom coding for again, and there sometimes will be, But I think that it's it's just about getting to an end.
It's definitely it's, I was going to say, it's a really good feeling as well, just knowing that, if I have an idea, knowing that I can pursue it, although I might not because it's not the best business idea, but like I'm no longer limited, I guess, to the engineers that I know on my network. And like that is a good feeling. And as I said, if I could ever get it to a point where like it's not scalable, by that time I'd hope that I'd be able to validate spending the money to get it properly built from someone I know. So yeah, it's definitely a good way to get started.
Yeah, I always say you just have to basically you have to justify your next investment, and that starts from the very, very early days. If you're talking to people and they don't seem to show a problem, then you don't even want to build the first product. Once you've built the first product, if you're not able to actually prove customer demand, so not what people are saying, but how people are clicking, how people are purchasing, how people are whatever, like it's probably not going to be worth your time and energy to build a full MVP, and and et cetera, et cetera. It's just about basically saying like, hey, let's use the Pareto principle, so putting in 20% of the effort to get 80% of the results every step of the way, because early stage, like that was it's all about, right? It's about getting to that next stepping stone. And I think one of the biggest things that founders fight is really perfectionist syndrome. I think at the beginning I had that. Yeah, I'm guilty of that too. When my first startups, like it was like, if this feature is a tiny bit off, it's going to drive me crazy. And it's like, you know what? That's you fighting your own mind. But the reality is that like that's not going to make. Yeah. Thank you.
It's true. Yeah, like I've had to like tell myself that as well in the past. Like, yeah, especially with no code. Holy shit! Like my shiny object syndrome went crazy when I found Bubble. Like it was so hard to just pull yourself back and think like, okay, what is going to be valuable for the end user here?
Yeah, that's funny because everyone, I was telling you this earlier, but everyone basically is asking us like, oh, send us a huge long list of no-code tools. I'm like, really? Do you want to have a heart attack? And so we send that out to them at least to kind of like give them the highlight of what those tools do. Yeah. But the reality is that like that's not the hard part. The hard part is not like finding a list of tools. You can literally type into Google no-code tools list and you'll find it. What's difficult is to figure out what's the best toolkit for you, and depending on your needs. Love it.
100%.
Awesome. Well, Lachlan, it was a real pleasure talking to you. I look forward to kind of seeing what you're doing moving forward. We'll take this offline and we'll talk about some of the things we might be able to do together. Thanks for joining the show, and thank you to the audience for watching. We'll see you guys.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Well, you definitely have sort of the right mind frame and the right sort of you're performing the right actions to see a lot more success moving forward. So I'm super excited to follow your path. And if you haven't already, go follow him on Twitter, go follow him on LinkedIn, and go check out his blog, and also go and check out his company, Click-Through, because you'll find a lot of free, valuable stuff there as well. Okay, guys, have a great day. Take care.